As it passed, a wild wind raged and caused aquatic life to jump out. Even massive trees toppled. The power shown was utterly terrifying. Now that you've angered Augustus, let's see if you can survive this. Upon seeing this, the disciples of the Jade Maiden Sisterhood gloated openly. HMPH challenging a grandmother is like bringing a knife to a gunfight. That guy is digging his own grave. The members of the Doyle family sneered. It was as if they were looking at a corpse. A grandmother should never be insulted. This young man is probably going to meet his end here. Conrad sighed as he shook his head, feeling regretful. This guy has committed endless crimes. He deserves to die. The Hill family applauded and cheered. They felt vindicated. Almost everyone believed that Dustin was sure to be a dead man. Just as the python-like column of water was about to come crashing down on Dustin, he suddenly moved with a quick tap of his toes. He launched himself forward. He turned into a white streak of light as he broke through the python and continued toward Augustus. Augustus' expression shifted dramatically. He unleashed a series of palm strikes, creating numerous water pillars as he tried to stop Dustin. However, the light was unstoppable as it pierced through all the pillars. Eventually, the light arced through the air. Then, it collided with a tremendous force against Augustus' protective true energy barrier. With a resounding bang, Augustus' protective barrier exploded, dissolving into waves of light. His body was thrown upwards like a kite disconnected from its string. Then, he fell into the lake. Augustus disappeared from view. A deathly silence engulfed the scene. Only the sound of water bubbling on the surface of the lake could be heard. Only silence filled the scene. Everyone was dumbfounded. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Nobody expected a great martial artist like Augustus to crash into the water with one strike. He was a grandmother, for God's sake. His presence was like a divine being to ordinary martial artists. A flick of a finger could take a life, and a simple attack could defeat a divine-level martial artist. Under normal circumstances, a top-tier skilled martial artist like him should be invincible. He could crush everything effortlessly. What the hell was going on then? The revered Augustus was defeated on their first encounter. How the hell was that possible? After a brief silence, the area around Shinefield Lake erupted into a frenzy. Oh my God! Am I seeing things? Augustus Klein was sent into the water. No, that's not possible. A grandmother is like God. How could an ordinary person compare? A grandmother can only be defeated by another grandmother. Could that man actually be a grandmother already? A young grandmother. He's actually a young grandmother. We have a monster in the Balerno Martial Arts Alliance. The excitement at the scene reached its peak as the crowd looked at Dustin standing on the surface of the lake. All of them were dumbstruck. How is that possible? He's a grandmother. It was as if Terry was hit by lightning as the color drained from his face. He had thought Dustin was only slightly stronger than him. He didn't expect him to turn out to be a grandmother already. If Dustin wanted to kill him, it would be like killing an ant. The blow left him in despair. It wasn't only him. The rest of the Doyle family members looked astonished and scared. Why is he so strong? Brittany shook her head continuously in disbelief. She couldn't accept that fanboy was a formidable fighter. We're doomed. We offended a young grandmother. We're in big trouble. Letitia was terrified. She broke out in a cold sweat. How could this be? Why the hell is he a grandmother? It was Augustus, who was just sent crashing into the water. TH's hair was disheveled, and his entire body was drenched. He looked awful. He wasn't badly injured, however. He couldn't get back his initial glory as a grandmother. Master Augustus is actually all right. That's great. Seeing this, Terry was re-energized. He also regained his confidence. The surprised crowd also had their hopes restored. Dustin was indeed a young grandmother, but Augustus was a grandmother too. Earlier, he had been too reckless. Augustus had underestimated his enemy, which led to his loss. As a veteran grandmother, Augustus would surely be more skilled if they fought head-on. "Young man, how dare you attack me by surprise?" Augustus came out of the water. He gritted his teeth with a fierce expression. He looked as though he wanted to eat somebody. Augustus had never felt so embarrassed. He had his dignity wiped by a punk in front of everyone. It was a huge humiliation. A surprise attack? But you attacked first. Dustin put his hands behind his back. He stood on the surface of the lake, his body moving up and down with the waves. HMPH, I underestimated you earlier. That's why you managed to find an opportunity to strike, Augustus said. Then he continued, this time, I won't hold back. I'll show you the difference between us as grandmasters. With that, Augustus tapped his foot on the surface of the lake. A huge wave burst out. At the same time, his whole body shot up like an arrow from a bow. He flew toward Dustin, wherever he flew over. His grandmaster's energy formed a large trench on the surface of the lake. Dustin wasn't afraid at all. He also shot himself upward to meet Augustus. Like cars speeding toward each other, they collided. Then came a loud, earth-shattering noise. When they collided, water splashed up as high as 50 feet. An energy light ray burst forth. It made a huge wave that crashed violently in every direction. Wave after wave slammed against the land. After that move, the two people in the middle of the lake didn't stop there. They continued to attack each other. They exchanged blows, each giving and taking. They created countless splashes and roaring waves. Even from 300 feet away, everyone could feel their overwhelming power. Every attack seemed capable of destroying the earth and moving mountains. They were all scared out of their minds. This is what grandmother martial artists are like. They're as scary as I thought. This battle is intense. I really don't know who will win. Is that even a question? Of course, it's going to be Sir Augustus. Can't you see that the punk is already struggling to catch his breath? That's right. As a veteran grandmother, Sir Augustus has a solid foundation. He has several tricks up his sleeve, so he ought to emerge victorious. As the crowd watched the fight, they even made all sorts of comments to the point of being overly critical. To them, Dustin could only get the upper hand earlier because Augustus had underestimated him. Otherwise, how could he have had an advantage? At that moment, there was a thunderous noise from the middle of the lake. In an instant, the earth swayed, and the waves surged. Amid strong waves, the two figures clashed. Then they retreated several hundred feet in separate directions. At last, they regained their footing on the surface of the lake. In the next second, Dustin suddenly spat out a mouthful of dark blood. His figure swayed, and he almost fell into the water. How he lost. The punk lost. Terry and the others cheered in delight. As expected of Sir Augustus, he deserves his reputation. How impressive. The Hill family also perked up. So what if he's a young grandmother? He'll still die in Sir Augustus' hands. The disciples from the Jade Maiden Sisterhood celebrated Dustin's defeat. They kicked him while he was down. Punk, do you know what strength looks like? This is the gap between grandmasters. You should be honored to die by my hand today. Augustus cackled as he laughed. His body suddenly exploded like a balloon. Entire being turned into a cloud of fog, and nothing was left of his body. What the crowd was stunned as they watched blood fog fill the air. They were all rooted to the spot. It was as if they'd been struck by lightning. No one could have expected to see such a shocking sight. Didn't Augustus win? Why did he suddenly explode? That was none other than Sir Augustus, the peerless grandmother martial artist. He was a living legend. Someone like him died just like that. He was dead. Master. Terry's jaw dropped open. He stood there in a daze. His face paled. He couldn't believe his eyes. His invincible, extraordinary master had suddenly exploded and died. Even his body was gone. He's dead? Sir Augustus is actually dead. After a brief silence, the crowd broke out in chaos. Oh my God, what the hell just happened? I can't be dreaming. Can I? No way. How did a grandmother martial artist die? The sky is falling, the sky is falling. Right now, all the martial artists were extremely shocked.